I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Commissioners. It's May 27th, 2021, at 6:30 PM. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bridget, would you please take the roll?
President Todd,
Present.
Commissioner Ansier,
Present.
Commissioner Gibson,
Present.
Commissioner Janner,
Here.
Commissioner McBroom,
Here.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Present.
Do we have anybody signed up for matters of the public?
We do not.
All right, then we're on to recognition. At this time, I'd like to invite Park Police Chief Steve Schindelbeck to the podium to recognize 3 members of our Park Police.
All right, good evening. Thank you. I would like to invite Lieutenants Mike Harrington and Scott Worley to please join me at the podium. So last year we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Naperville Park District Police Department, noting their commitment to customer service, education, and problem solving as they ensure public safety throughout our large park system. Lieutenant Scott Worley and Lieutenant Mike Harrington have provided consistent leadership over the years, passing along to new officers the culture of community service that began in the early years with the department's first chief, Bill Young, and continues to define the Park Police today. This year, Lieutenant Harrington is celebrating his 30th anniversary with the Naperville Park Police, and Lieutenant Scott Worley celebrated 30 years with the Park Police in May of last year. We are grateful for your excellent service and are proud to recognize each of you tonight with a certificate that reads as follows. The Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners and Executive Director gratefully acknowledges Lieutenant Scott Worley and Lieutenant Mike Harrington for 30 years of distinguished service as an integral member of the Naperville Park District Police Department. We thank you for your commitment and dedication to proudly serving our community.
Thank you.
You know, as evidence, I had a 50-50 chance of giving you guys the right ones, but, you know, as evidence of their commitment this past weekend, we had a pretty significant protest in town. And when I looked for volunteers to work the assignment with me, actually these 2 came out and worked it. And they actually stood out in the sun directing traffic on Aurora Avenue for upwards of 4 to 5 hours. So it's just the kind of commitment and work ethic that personifies who they are. So. All right, would Officer Tyler Benjamin please join me at the podium? All right, because of his life-saving actions taken on Friday, March 26th, 2021, we are presenting Officer Benjamin with a special award this evening. At 10:05 p.m. on March 26th, Officer Benjamin responded to an emergency call from the Naperville Police who were attending to a person in the area of 120 Water Street who had collapsed and was not breathing. Upon his arrival, Naperville Park Police Officer Benjamin observed Naperville Police Officers Franken and O'Connor actively performing CPR on the patient who had no pulse. Officer Benjamin then retrieved his automated external defibrillator and applied the pads to the patient. The AED indicated the patient needed to be shocked. Officer Benjamin then followed the AED's instruction to deliver the shock. Officer O'Connor continued chest compressions for approximately 2 more minutes until the defibrillator advised that a second shot was needed. Officer Benjamin then delivered that second shock as the Naperville Fire Department paramedics arrived on scene, took over life-saving measures, and ultimately transported the subject, who now had a pulse, to Edward Hospital. The Naperville Public Safety Dispatch Center was contacted later that night by a nurse from the Edward Hospital Emergency Room who wanted to let the officers that had handled this incident know that the patient was, quote, doing really well. The nurse went on to explain that if the AED had not been used, the patient would not have made it. Officer Benjamin, in recognition of your highly professional conduct, teamwork, and life-saving efforts, I am pleased to present you with the Naperville Park Police Department's Life Saving Award. Congratulations on a job well done. All right, so where can we stand? Sure.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The executive director warns that all consent agenda item reports and memoranda comply with our board policy. Bridget, would you please read the items?
Item 4.1, approve May 13, 2020 regular meeting minutes. And item 4.2, approve May 13, 2020 executive session closed meeting minutes.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? All right,
Move to accept consent agenda items 4.1 and 4.2.
is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ansier,
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
President Todd.
Yes.
Move to approve consent agenda items 4.1 and 4.2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Voice vote.
This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Got through that part. Now we have discussion items. Frontier Sports Complex and Kings Hill Park Playground renovations.
Yes, thank you. So this item we had an opportunity to discuss at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting last Friday, as well as include in the weekly packet update to the park board. This is within our 2021 capital budget. It's playground renovations at Frontier Sports Complex in Kings Hill Park. It involves removal and replacement of play equipment, play surfacing, site furnishings, and landscaping. We intend to bring a contract to the board for consideration at the June 10th park board meeting, and we just wanted to relay the information tonight for discussion purposes.
Are there any questions for Eric? Okay. Next one is the Fort Hill Complex Asphalt Trail Connection.
Yes, so this one also was discussed at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting, as well as included in the weekly packet. This is within our 2021 capital budget, and it involves the installation of a new asphalt trail, AD accessible link between two existing pathways in a parking lot. We also intend to present this to the park board as far as a contract for consideration at the June 10th park board meeting.
Any questions on this item? Okay. Move on to the
Thank you.
Reindeer Road Agreement.
The Parks and Recreation Committee, we had discussion last week regarding the Reindeer Road Agreement. The Reindeer Road is a holiday lights display event that Commissioner Janner approached the Park District about this spring to be able to host between the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays at Frontier Sports Complex. We had quite a bit of discussion at the Parks and Recreation Committee regarding the location of the Holiday Lights event if we were to move forward with it. And some of the concerns raised were traffic and the impacts, potential impacts to Book Road and Conan Doyle on the east side of Frontier Sports Complex. We then explored moving the location of the event to the central parking lot at Frontier Sports Complex to move away from some of the neighborhood areas. What we'd like to do this evening is have some further discussion with the board and understand if there is a consensus to move forward with finalizing an agreement that we would then bring to the board for consideration for approval at the next meeting. So Commissioner Janner, if you want to maybe speak on the event.
Sure. Thank you, Director Wilson. So as I had shared with the Parks and Recreation Committee, just a little bit of a background. During the 2020 holiday season, due to the pandemic, most of the things that folks would normally do, especially folks with young families, go to events, movies, restaurants, retail establishments, a lot of that was shut down. And so within my family, we filled the time by driving around not only Naperville, but surrounding communities, looking at these holiday light displays in residential neighborhoods and so on and so forth. And so when the idea of possibly doing something within the Naperville Park District, the idea certainly resonated with me and my family as well, and started exploring through the Parks and Recreation Committee the possibility of creating something for the community. Obviously, I think everybody knows by now it would be a completely free event for the community, so there would be no cost to drive through. So it would be a drive-through event, I think, as everybody knows. We would try to collect toys for the Toys for Tots initiative that the Park Police has spearheaded for a number of years. The Park Police seem favorable toward that concept as well. And then there would be no cost specifically to the district for building the display. All of that would be done through private donations and charitable sponsorships, contributions, and so on and so forth. So I'll be happy to answer any further questions. I think most everyone has read through some of the material, so I don't want to belabor it, but certainly happy to answer any questions.
Any other questions or comments?
I know there is concerns with the traffic and discussion of possibly moving the location, but how would that work with dropping off for Toys for Tots? Because if the idea is to drive through and keep it moving so cars don't have to stop, how does that work for the drop off?
So there would be a staff person that would receive those donations of toys, presumably through the either the driver's side or the passenger side of the vehicle, and the staff person would simply collect those items and thank the patron for delivering them and move them on their way. So there would be presumably a brief pause, but don't see any reason why people would need to really linger there. Again, there'd be a staff person there to personally receive the donation. So,
Brett, do you want to say more about where we're moving it to? Because everything that was in the packet showed off the Frontier Park off of Book Road.
Sure. So, and that packet had been put together based on a previous overview and thoughts in regards to the event prior to the discussion at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. The location would be moved to the central parking lot, which that is the parking lot that is behind the Neuqua Valley High School Freshman Center, that is in between the soccer fields and the softball fields that we have at Frontier Sports Complex. So there is the entire length of Cedar Glade Drive that runs past the 95th Street Library that then connects with the internal roadway of Frontier Sports Complex to where that central parking lot is at. Frontier is home to several very large sporting events, tournaments throughout the course of the year, where that is the primary parking location for those tournaments, as well as just weekly, especially during the regular season, a number of games, both softball and soccer, that take place there. So quite a bit of traffic typically that utilizes those areas. Certainly from a traffic standpoint, we do not believe that it will cause any major disruptions with 95th Street and Route 59 being the two main access points into Cedar Glade and into the park.
Any other questions, comments? Elsie?
Yeah, I had Commissioner Janner answer a few of these questions before, but a couple more popped up as I was thinking about it. So in regards to the companies, because I know you mentioned you were looking at 2 different companies to provide us with the lights, I was just wondering, so that number you gave me, the 25,000 to 30,000, that budget, did that come from those companies, or is that something you've gotten from another source? I'm just curious where the estimate for the entire project came from, because I'm honestly not as familiar with
Right.
this type of event.
Yeah, those numbers came from conversations with those subcontractors directly about what it would take to build this. And, of course, you could spend $100,000 and build a Cadillac like is at Phillips Park in Aurora or at Moose Heart. We're looking to kind of put a toe in the water with this. And, if it is wildly popular and the board decides in future years, like, hey, we want to blow this up bigger, certainly we can discuss that for future years. But it's about $10,000 for the building of the structures, about $10,000 for the lighting of the structure. So it's about $20,000. And then I budgeted another $5,000 to $10,000 for things like staff, overnight security, insurance, and the other items necessary to execute.
And just to be clear for anybody who may be watching at home, the cost associated with the event would be the responsibility of the event organizer, not the Park District. The Park District would receive reimbursement for any labor material costs outside of what we agree to within the partnership agreement for the event. So that would be the responsibility of the event organizer.
Anything else? Uh-oh. There might be one more. Mary?
Yeah, I know we had talked about determining how we figure out what groups we partner with. I know particularly since there had been another resident who approached us about a light show. How, as a park district, do we determine? Yes, the process.
Sure. Well, case-by-case basis, so very similar to when an individual or a company were to approach the Park District looking to offer a new program or service to the community. We go through a process where we evaluate, we look at, does it fit with our mission? Does it fit with our core values? And then we look beyond that to see, is this providing a public service where it's for the greater good of the entire community? And in those cases, then we typically look to work towards a partnership agreement, similar to what is being suggested here, and similar to actually our next agenda item when we talk about the salute. Those where someone is, an organization's coming in and looking to be able to profit from something that they're doing with the district, then we treat that differently. We treat that more as a rental or an independent contractor that we then work with. The light show that was discussed previously, that's no longer looking to move to Park District property this year, that was a different setup because they were going to look to charge for that event for individuals coming in. So the Park District was going to then seek revenue from that, basically as a rental or a lease, to be able to use that property. With this being a free community event with equal access to everyone in the community to be able to benefit from, and from really it's the donations going 100% to charity, then this is a situation where we would develop an agreement, much like we're proposing here, that would not have a rental fee associated with the use of the park, but we would seek reimbursement for any of the costs that the district may have.
Thank you. And then just to follow up from the actual proposal, Commissioner Janner, it's listed here that Reindeer Events is a Illinois nonprofit, and that any excess profit, which I presume would be what, from if you get more sponsorships than the cost, will be donated to charity. Do you know where the proceeds would be, or would the Park District have a say in that?
I believe I certainly would be open to any suggestions from either board or staff as far as partner charities. Completely open in that regard. I would expect, of course, it would be a 501c3 not-for-profit that would receive it, and I would recommend that it would be something related to kids. I think a lot of us resonate with the idea of kids helping kids. So I would say a charity that's perhaps somewhat local, definitely related to kids, but to be candid, haven't really researched or thought about specifically what charities may benefit. So if any other commissioner or any member of staff would like to raise a charity that's near and dear to their hearts, I certainly think that would be open for discussion, definitely would be. And just to be clear, I mean, with the dollars coming in, including sponsor dollars coming in, the first thing would be to pay for the setup of everything. And then after that, as is written in the contract that Director Wilson drafted, any of the net proceeds after those were paid for would go to the charities.
I have one more question, sorry, because thank you so much. You answered lots of my questions earlier this week. I'm curious, as far as the sponsorship goes, and I don't know what the legalities of this are, so forgive me if I'm asking a question that makes no sense. Would there be a way to work into the contract that sponsorships would be limited to like local businesses? My worry would just be like special interest groups purchasing a reindeer and then having their, because I know that each reindeer, the idea is to have like signage, acknowledging. I would just worry about special interest group verbiage on Park District property. So is there,
Yeah,
do you have an idea?
The way Director Wilson drafted the agreement, the Park District would have the final say on anything to do with the setup. And so presumably if he was the contact, he would have the final say. To be candid, I would never pursue anything political or special interest. It's going to be local businesses, and any of those others would not be, presumably would not be included.
Just kind of piggybacking off of her, which is actually similar to what I was going to ask as far as would there ever be anything that would be considered a conflict of interest as far as who donates or sponsors the event, like through the donations to make it happen. I don't know if that's a legal issue or not, but that's just kind of my curiosity if that's an issue.
Are we on? Wonderful, thanks. It's a good question. Each contributor, each sponsor, the contract is structured to allow the Park District to evaluate both the identity, the corporate identity, and to dig under to see who actually comprises the corporation as well. So as is common with these agreements in the past, the Park District will evaluate any sponsors associated with it to ensure there's no prohibited conflicts of interest that would be illegal.
Any other? Mary?
Sorry, this might be for Director Wilson. With that new neighborhood back there, do we worry that the lights might bother them? I know there's a stone fence along part of Frontier.
Yeah, there's a berm and a fence that runs along the south side of the soccer field area. But then at the other end of the park, we have lights, the sports lights that are there. Typically, we're running games into November. So I don't anticipate something like this, especially around the holidays with so many other holiday lights within the neighborhoods, that it would really impact the neighborhood negatively. This is also structured so that it would run until I believe 10 p.m. So at 10 o'clock, the lights would be going off.
Great, thanks.
Any other?
Just a comment. Just want to express my support. I think it's a great idea. Thank Commissioner Janner for coming up with the idea. And it's free to the community, and it's not going to cost the park anything as long as the staff believes that the logistical issues are fine and the traffic is fine. I think it's a great idea for families in the community. So, as far as charities go, just one that pops up to mind for consideration would be Kids Matter, who's had a long relationship with the Park District. So just an idea there.
Any other comments? Thank you, Brad.
So the intent would be that to then bring an agreement, we would update the agreement to reflect the location of the central parking lot at Frontier, but that we would bring that to the first meeting in June for the board's consideration.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right. Naperville Salute Agreement.
Yes, so I have this item as well. This was also discussed at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting. We are in the process right now of drafting an agreement, very similar to Reindeer Road and the Naperville JC's agreement that we have with them for Last Fling. But this is with Naperville Response for Veterans for the Salute. The Salute is a community-based July 4th event, originally scheduled to take place in 2020. However, that had to be canceled due to COVID. We continued to work with the organization and with the city to conduct the July 4th fireworks last year that was very successful at Frontier Sports Complex. This agreement would outline the responsibilities of the organization, Naperville Responds for Veterans, for that event, as well as Park District responsibilities and that relationship for use of Rotary Hill for 2 days in which they would have a concert, food vendors, so on, that would be at the Hill location. And then the July 4th fireworks that would take place on July 4th, again at Frontier Sports Complex. This is something that's done in coordination with the city of Naperville, as well as the Park District and Naperville Response for Veterans. As part of that agreement, you will see that the Park District contributes $8,500 per year to the fireworks demonstration, and that's something that we have historically done as a Park District to contribute towards that community event.
Any questions? Commissioner Gibson?
Yeah, really quick. The 2 days for Rotary Hill is July 2nd and 3rd?
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. We'll move on
Thank
to
you.
the vehicle purchase.
Good evening. We'd like to present for consideration the purchase of a new 2021 Ford Escape plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. This purchase would replace a 2010 Ford Escape hybrid that's used by administrative staff within the central maintenance facility that's experiencing severe rust issues, as well as requiring the replacement of several interior components. The new unit would be stored at the central maintenance facility, which already houses a charging station. The anticipated purchase price through the Suburban Purchasing Cooperative for the new Escape would be $30,961. With the core value of environmental education, stewardship, and sustainability, we believe that we have an opportunity with this purchase as we continue to investigate the compatibility of alternative fuel sources and the needs and responsibilities of the Parks Department. Any questions?
Hey, Tim, about what percentage of our fleet is these hybrid vehicles versus a traditional?
Well, and we've been kind of, over the years, we've been evolving. Obviously, a lot of gas, a lot of diesel. We started utilizing the biodiesel fuel in a lot of our dump trucks a few years ago. I'd have to get the number to you, but we started installing in many of our pickup trucks and a number of our park police vehicles a propane option, so they run on both gas and propane. Currently, we have 3 in the Parks Department Ford Escapes that are hybrids. And then the neat thing about this new hybrid, the technology has, again, evolved to the point where you can run solely on electric or gas. The current units that we'd be looking to replace kind of switch back and forth between the 2 fuel sources. With this new plug-in hybrid, we can choose to run it only on electric. It looks like we could get about 40 miles on a full charge, which should be able to get us around town throughout the day. And then if we needed to switch to gas, we'd be able to do that, which in the gas cycle would also charge the electric battery. So I could get you an exact number of
I was just curious, just the ballpark, you know.
I'd say it's about a quarter.
About a quarter, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, I think that's it for that. The next one is surplus items.
I'd also like to bring to the board our intent to surplus several items from our IT department, as well as an out-of-service 1991 backhoe from the Parks Department. An itemized list of the IT hardware was provided in the May 21st board packet and includes a variety of items, including phones, laptops, hard drives, desktop towers, and printers. And the 1991 582 Super K backhoe has suffered from multiple mechanical issues and more recently structural integrity problems necessary for the safe operation of the unit, which renders it unusable. Each of these items would be placed for sale on the GovDeals website, which we've had a lot of success with, recycled or traded in.
Any questions on the process or any of the items? Nope. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now we'll move to the department updates. Start with administration. Bridget?
You will be getting an invite for the NRPA annual conference. They're doing a hybrid version this year. They're capping the in-person So early bird ends, I want to say, August 6th. So you have some time to decide if you want to attend. It's going to be held over September 21st through the 23rd. And it's to our benefit to wait a little bit to see if there's a lot of programs that you'll be interested in. We do anticipate reaccreditation for our CAPRA, so that would be presented at that time.
They're going to do it virtually this year, but they'll be presented during the conference.
Yeah. So I'll have more information as time goes by, but I'll send you the invite so you have it on your calendar. Generally, what I do is I give a due date and try to hit the early bird. If you have a conflict or you really are on the fence, we can, spend the extra afterward, but we try to hit that early bird. So.
Bridget, can you remind us of the location, and is it virtual or is
Yes,
it?
I'm so sorry. It's in Nashville, and
Okay.
it's in person, but up to 3,000. So they have a confusing phases sort of registration that I'm looking into to see how that's going to work, but you can decide if you want to. Sounds like there'll be a lot of attendance, and I don't know if they'll make any adjustments as time goes by with COVID restrictions. So I'll know a little bit more later. And that's all.
Finance.
Good evening. So we are still in a routine mode, just doing our normal accounting things. I will just highlight something I've been spending a little more time on recently is I serve on our IMRF pension board, and it's a statewide plan. And for you new board members, you'll learn more about it as we move through the year. But it is the retirement plan for the Park District, any municipality, special districts that's mandatory throughout the state. So it's a huge plan. We've got about $54 billion under investment management. So on that board, I'm chairing the search committee for a new CIO. So the chief investment officer left. It's a huge role to fill. So I've been heading that committee and spending a lot of time, doing that recruitment with the professional firm in our committee. So we're also gearing up in the department, kind of just standing by as everyone else has been really busy getting ready to open up for the back end processing of all the cash and payments we're going to be getting in to make sure everything's working smoothly. We're doing a lot of testing on that now. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Sue? No. All right, golf. Kevin.
Thank you. A couple quick updates. Staff is preparing for the Memorial Day weekend at both courses. Historically, this is always a popular weekend for golf, and this year is no different. Unfortunately, the weather looks a little less than promising tomorrow, but the rest of the weekend looks good, and our current tee time reservations are forecasting some very busy days. Golf continues to see some very positive rounds and revenue numbers across the board. And as we wrap up May, we're happy to report the overall monthly numbers have already exceeded budget. Memorial Day is traditionally our start of the summer, and this begins a very busy period for our Brooks Golf Academy, which provides professional golf instruction with group and individual lessons. Most of these group lessons are for adults and juniors geared towards the beginner or less experienced golfer, with the goal of being able to provide the skills and, more importantly, the confidence in their abilities so they can better enjoy the game. Our current lesson programs are seeing some significant increases in participation this year. With school out soon, our junior lesson programs and leagues will begin, and we currently have 670 juniors registered for our camps, clinics, and leagues so far this summer, and that has already exceeded our 3-year average. The adult programs are also very popular this year, seeing a nearly 70% increase in participation. And many of our summer programs are now filled, and the later summer and fall programs are also beginning to fill in. Finally, staffing levels for both our clubhouse and maintenance are approaching our summer levels. We have school out now, so our college and high school help are coming on. The clubhouse staff is currently in good shape with staffing. However, maintenance is down some 6 and 9 month positions, but currently we're augmenting with some of our college help that's coming on. Overall, staff has done an incredible job dealing with the overwhelming demand and extra rounds that have come through golf this year, and continue to keep everything rolling really nice, good shape.
That's all I got.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. Next is information technology. No, human resources, I'm sorry. Human
I can make
resources.
stuff up. You want to talk about IT? Oh, good evening. On May 8th, we had our collaborative job fair with Kids Matter. It was the third annual job fair that we've held with them specifically, and it was outside. I talked about this at our April meeting. We had over 20 employers participate and over 400 attendees that came in. A lot of the attendees were 14, 15, 16 years old. So unfortunately, not a great opportunity for us to fill any current openings. A lot of our openings right now are for those that are 18 and older. If anybody has anybody that you know, any neighbors that are looking for jobs, please direct them to our website. They can apply online on our employment page. We are looking forward to moving that job fair back inside in January and getting back on a regular schedule in 2022. Earlier this week, I was advised of my appointment to the Operations Committee on our Health Insurance Risk Pool. I will be representing us there for a 2-year term. So looking forward to that and something a little bit different. Any questions?
Any questions? No.
Are we experiencing any hiring shortages or applicants or things? I know a lot of companies have been experiencing that recently.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. We've been trying all across the board, really, in all the positions that we have available. It is really that key group that are the kind of the 18 to 22 that is really the struggle. I have 2 kids in that age range, and I've been like, what are your friends doing? Oddly, it seems a lot of that age group enjoys doing their own thing, and then when they're ready to earn some cash, they're working for Instacart or DoorDash. They're not applying for positions like this, which are a little bit more structured. So, yeah, it's been a challenge, right? Everybody can nod. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments? No. All right, now it's information technology.
All right. No pressure. Okay, so as we approach the holiday weekend, IT's been busy supporting operations and staff. Everything from software and hardware configurations, payment terminal configurations, changing door schedules, assigning keyless entry keys, providing and updating camp counselor phones, yeah, that happens, are just an example of some of those tasks. We also continue to monitor and expand our cybersecurity endeavors. In fact, this morning we sat through a webinar that explained in detail how the Colonial Pipeline, the largest pipeline system for refined oil products in the U.S., was recently compromised. This historical shutdown was caused by a phishing email. Those have been around for about 20 years, and that's what took them down. The email was used to gain access, to gain credentials, and then gain information to gain unauthorized remote access to their systems. And then they utilized elevated PowerShell commands, which basically is just a fancy way of saying that they ran programs once they had access that were able to jeopardize the integrity of the system. So that's a very high level of what happened. And there's a lot of lessons learned. However, the biggest takeaway that we had, and kind of the scarier aspect of it, was that RAS, which is ransomware as a service now, is a thing, which means that bad actors can contract other bad guys to do things like this. And that's actually what happened. So it's kind of like, you're looking for a contractor for your basement, you can get a contractor for ransomware now. So that's got to be a pretty interesting looking RFP, right? So, we're staying on top of those things and continue to do our day-to-day support at the same time, just trying to, keep our heads on a swivel on these vulnerabilities that come up. Any questions?
Questions? Nope. Okay,
Thanks.
good. Marketing and communications is next.
Good evening. Have a few updates to share with the board tonight. So this is a little bit similar to what I provided to the Parks and Recreation Committee last week. With our sponsorship program, I've mentioned that 2021, coming off kind of a difficult year with 2020 and the pandemic, 2021 is really a rebuilding year for us, but we're in a very good position at this point. We ended Q1 of 2021 at $176,000. And that was a 3.6% increase compared to Q1 of 2020. So definitely trending in a positive direction. And we ended the month of April at $190,000. So again, we're continuing to build upon the sponsorship program. Obviously, as the events start to come back and people are really excited about participating in events and being a part of them from a sponsorship perspective, we're seeing very positive growth. So hopefully that continues, and we'll continue to monitor that and also provide the board updates as we go along with the rest of this year. We're also continuing to see excellent growth with regard to the digital program guide. And last year, it was right about this time when we decided to at least temporarily suspend the printing and delivery of the hard copy program guide, and didn't really know what to expect, but we're seeing some really positive things as far as website hits. Going back to the spring edition, which launched early in March, we saw 187,500 unique views within the first 3 weeks, which was great. However, the first 3 weeks with summer, which launched in late April, we saw 330,000 unique views, which was a tremendous increase of 76%. So that's just telling us that residents are understanding where to look for the program guide, how to register for programs, when to register for programs, all of those key details that we want to make sure that people are understanding. So that's very positive as well. Knowing that we're not going to be going back to printing and delivering the program guide, at least not in the foreseeable future, this is the kind of data that we're going to continue to look at and also consider that in line with the recreation numbers with participation and revenue. So those are things that we're going to continue to look at going forward. And then the last thing, I provided each of you with our 2021 summer events card, and it's kind of fun. It's folded up and you can unfold it and put it on your fridge. And it's just a nice encapsulation of all of the really cool and fun events that we're welcoming back in 2021. So this is available at our facilities, and it's been available for about the last 3 weeks, and we're just printing a lot more because this is what people want. So that's it. Any questions or comments? Thank you.
All right, Park Police.
All right, good evening. So things are starting to ramp up for the summer. Last weekend, we had the pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli rallies in town. At the height of that, we had 50 officers working between the city and the park police. And that was to manage upwards of 500-600 people that had showed up for the second one. They've made a request to come back on Saturday, June 5th. And they're talking about bringing upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 people for the protest. So we're working with the city to vet that. The following weekend, we'll have the half marathon in town on June 13th. That starts down at Centennial Beach, winds its way up and down West and Rickard Street, and comes back to the end, which is over at the Grand Pavilion behind the VFW. In addition to that, we have the salute on the horizon, where we'll have officers working Rotary Hill on the 2nd, 3rd, and then we'll be complementing the city police down at Frontier Park for the 4th of July fireworks on Sunday. We've hired 4 Park Service officers. We typically have 8 or 9 in a year. I have 2 more that have showed interest. And those are the individuals that will be tasked with having the biggest presence in and around Centennial Beach as it opens this weekend, and then on the Riverwalk from roughly Ogden Avenue down to Hobson. We've got them electric bikes so they can cover a lot more ground and be a lot more visible than they have traditionally been. In addition to that, we're increasing our use of the electric bikes overall and the ATVs to cover the 76 miles of trails that we have in town. So we're increasing the number of officers that we have working, usually from about midday through 11, 12 o'clock, depending on activity. And then we'll also be incorporating some, I call them sunrise plainclothes patrols that officers have volunteered to do, so that we have a presence on our parks at sunrise when they're being utilized, sometimes just as much as they are throughout the day. Questions?
Rich.
I just want to take a brief moment to thank you and everyone on the on the in the Park Police Department. I don't think our residents fully understand everything that goes on behind the scenes, especially with these protests. I think, I don't know if people understand all the planning and due diligence that's done to try to proactively prevent incidents and the types of things you guys are doing. It's really good stuff, and hopefully everyone in the community appreciates all your efforts to keep them safe, because this is definitely not easy, and I certainly recognize that, and just wanted to thank you and the department.
We're fortunate that we have the support that we do from the community as a whole in this park board. So we couldn't do the things that we did without that support, because it kind of drives them to keep up what they're doing.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, moving on. Parks.
Park updates. The month of May typically presents parks with two of our biggest seasonal challenges, keeping up with the mowing and weeds. We're doing our best to keep butts in the seats, altering schedules, reshuffling tasks, and have as many hours out during the work week as we can get on the equipment. Athletic field rentals are in full swing, and we're beginning to see special event and tournament support needs slowly picking back up. Between the three divisions, we're anticipating having over 125 new trees planted this spring. Our north side staff spent a good portion of the month cleaning and prepping for the opening of Centennial Beach for this upcoming weekend. And down south, the splash pads at both the 95th Street Community Plaza and Wills Crossing Community Park are now open and ready to use. Multiple large-scale volunteer projects were recently completed, in addition to several smaller individual and group efforts. A big thank you is required from the Parks Department. We certainly benefit from the generous donations of time and effort from the Naperville community. And staffing-wise, our summer staff has begun to trickle in, which is a big help for us. And we started our first round interviews for our vacant full-time fleet position and hope to have that filled as soon as possible. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Planning and development.
So I have a very brief update this evening. It pertains to the land cash dedication ordinance. Sorry. and I'm sorry, I do not have any handouts either. But yes, it pertains to the land cash dedication ordinance as well as neighborhood parks. As we all know, we currently have 136 neighborhood parks. We soon will have 138 parks. The next park is planned for Heritage Place. It's located to the east of North Central College, the former Little Friends property. And it's going to have a main park with a playground, site furnishings, and a small pocket park. Our second park, our 138th park, neighborhood park, is going to be part of the Napier Commons development on the north side of town, north of I-88 in the northwest corner of Napier Boulevard and Warrenville Road. So soon we will present to the board. We're looking at maybe as early as June development agreements, but we just want to let you know it's coming your way.
Any questions, comments on that?
Thank you.
Oh, one quick, can I ask really quickly, what's a pocket park?
Yeah, so a pocket park is essentially a lot of times just a small turf area that we mow with usually an ADA accessible pathway. It usually connects to another feature. In this case, it's going to connect to the historical mansion. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
It's pretty tiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Finally, recreation.
Finally. Well, we're very excited. In just over a day from now, we will be reopening Centennial Beach for the first time since Labor Day of 2019. So it's been almost 2 years since we've had the beach available to the community. As I mentioned, under the or at the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting, under the bridge phase, we must operate the facility where we have groups of 100. And we can have multiple groups of 100 within the facility, so long as there's distancing between groups. So we have worked with the DuPage County Health Department on a plan, and with our field crews actually within parks to come out and line out designated seating zones that will be in the turf areas where individuals, when you visit the beach, you will sit in the designated seating zone. Once we enter phase 5 Our understanding and the way that IDPH has the guidelines set up right now is the capacity limits are taken off. So we can resume normal capacity, and we do not have to have the groups of 100 that will be part of that. As of now, to date, we have sold just over 1,700 memberships. In comparison to 2019, we were at about 2,600 memberships at this point. But in 2019, we had started selling memberships in January. This year, we began selling memberships on May 5th, once we knew definitively from IDPH what that was going to look like. The weather for Saturday doesn't look that great. Typically, Centennial Beach, we will not open the water unless the air temperature is 65 degrees. We will have the facility open this Saturday because we have a large number of new lifeguards that are continuing their training, and they are going to be shadowing our veteran guards up in the chairs. So that's an important part of the training that we will be moving through so that they can get that experience this weekend. So we look forward to inviting everyone back and having the community back at the beach. Our program registrations right now, we're seeing a surge in registrations, specifically within our summer camps areas. Earlier this month, we were down about 32% as far as our registrations for summer camps compared to 2019, which was a very good year for us. As of today, we're down 16%. So we're approaching about 4,000 summer camp registrants that have registered for 2021. We had about 4,500 in 2019. I expect that that's going to continue to go up in the coming weeks as school is coming to an end. So we're excited about that. Overall, spring registration is only down 14% compared to 2019. So that's a pretty good number. Again, we're seeing larger registrations in our outdoor programs versus the indoor. However, we are starting to see more traffic in some of our buildings, especially with the new face covering guidance that went into effect. And then lastly, Katie had mentioned this earlier, and there was a question about hiring. Hiring has been a challenge this year, and it continues to be in certain areas. Specifically within our food and beverage operations and within our part-time custodial operations, it's very difficult to get applicants right now. So we're doing a number of things to try to attract those applicants. We're also looking at our operations to see if we can change up operations with food and beverage, changing up menu even to be able to accommodate some younger ages to be able to work within those facilities. So again, if you know of anyone 18 and older, or specifically 21 and older, send them our way. We'd be happy to take a look at their application.
Any questions?
Hey Brad, are we still at the beach? Are we still doing like the special day for WDSRA and some other groups?
Yes, so we have multiple days, Sunday evenings throughout the course of the summer that will be special needs nights for special needs families to come in on those evenings and have a quieter experience.
And then also, do we still have the reciprocity agreement in place with another, like Lyle or something along those lines? If we're down or they're down, is that still in?
Correct. So we have an intergovernmental agreement with Lyle Park District, specifically with aquatics in the event that their pool were to go down, which happened actually a couple of years ago. Their system, they could not open, to where their members can come over to Centennial Beach. We track that and then we bill Lyle back for that. But at least their members continue to get that service. Same thing with us. If our pool, or excuse me, the beach had to close, they could go to Lyle, and Lyle would accept their membership. That is an ongoing agreement that just continues each year until one organization decides that they would like to terminate it.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. All right, the next regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners is June 10th at 7 o'clock here at Fort Hill Activity Center in our multipurpose room. Now we'll adjourn to executive session.
Move to adjourn to executive session to discuss semi-annual review of executive session minutes under Section 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
I'm like the anchor man, whatever's on the script. 2C21.
Okay, and second by Josh. Roll call. Or, yeah.
Commissioner Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner McBroom?
Yes.
Commissioner Answer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruffing?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
President Todd?
Yes.